Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Haslett Board of Education meeting for August 25th. First item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. So if we could all stand. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we will move on to the next item, which is the superintendent's report.
Thank you. First, I'm pleased to recommend Nick Hamilton, currently our Director of Student Services and Safety for Associate Superintendent, effective October 1st, 2025. Nick was selected following a very competitive process of strong internal and external candidates. His contract appears on today's consent agenda for approval. He and Diane will work in their respective roles through the transition throughout the month of September. Second, the first week of schools was a great success. Diane and I again visited all our schools on the first day and through the first week, which was 2 days. Walking hallways, classrooms, it's always great to see students and staff back in our schools. Our teams did an outstanding job again of reinforcing procedures and building positive school culture right from day one. Saw a lot of initiatives that were directly focused on just making sure that we have a strong start to the school year. We're really looking forward to the wonderful year ahead with our students. Lastly, a lot of this will be familiar to those who saw my letter from last week, but in case you missed it, I want to reaffirm our commitment at Haslett Public Schools to the safety and security of our entire school community. A third-party independent Title IX investigation is continuing following reports by 4 Murphy Elementary students of alleged inappropriate touching by another student last May. I'd like to provide a brief update as part of our commitment to transparency and keeping our community informed. While we can't discuss the specifics of any student safety plan, we're working hard to help ensure the continued safety of all of our students. We've taken several specific steps to separate all involved students and are working closely with the staff and the parents to help the students under investigation to help foster a safe learning environment. We've increased supervision of the classrooms during transition periods and recess, including on our playing fields and before and after school drop-off and pickup. We understand that it may frustrate some of our community that we cannot detail all the specifics. However, Title IX investigations and student privacy protections have limited our ability to give more details. However, please know that we will not tolerate any violence, threats, intimidation, or harassment, and will thoroughly investigate any such reports involving law enforcement if appropriate. We also have several disciplinary tools at our disposal, including suspension and expulsion consistent with school policies. I also want to take the opportunity to provide an update on our Title IX training and protocols across the district. First, all district employees are already required to complete annual Title IX training. Our faculty and staff complete a 30-minute video overview covering Title IX reporting responsibilities, while administrators participate in an annual 3-hour-long training. New this year, we've brought 2 new school success coordinators on board to help the teachers and staff promote pro-social behavior as one of our many layers to mitigate potentially harmful student behaviors in our schools. Both student success coordinators are longtime respected teachers who left the classroom specifically to do this work to help keep our schools safe. We continue to review our protocols, practices, and staff training to help ensure that any inappropriate conduct is promptly reported. I want to thank the parents, school employees, families, and students who've provided feedback to us, because feedback like this helps us be a stronger Haslett Public Schools. Please do not hesitate to contact me directly if you have any questions or concerns about this matter or about our safety protocols.
All right. With that, we will move on to our discussion item for the evening, and that is the out-of-state field trip request to New York City. It looks like Mr. Callahan is not here this evening. My apologies. Well, we could probably table that and come back if Mr. Callahan makes it here. If not, I'm sure we will hear from him at our next meeting. So for that, we will move on to board reports. Since there has been no committee meetings since we last met, there will be no updates from committees. But if any board member has any items that they would like to speak to, they are free to. No? Haddington? Okay. I do have something, as Patrick talked about too, I want to talk about the incident that was reported in May. I want folks to know that our board is committed to providing a safe and secure environment that helps all of our students achieve and succeed. As was mentioned in May, we received a report from 4 Murphy Elementary students regarding alleged inappropriate touching by another student during recess. Following our board's policies and procedures, the district launched an internal investigation, contacted the parents of all students involved, and engaged with local law enforcement. The incident is now part of an ongoing Title IX investigation being conducted by an independent third-party firm. The district, as was mentioned by the superintendent, is also updating protocols, practices, and staff training to promote prompt reporting of all inappropriate conduct. Our board fully supports the superintendent in his continued commitment to fostering a safe, nurturing learning environment for all students, and will be providing updates if and when the information comes available to share. This has been a challenging time for our district, and our hearts go out to those who have been affected by this. I'm confident that working together, we will emerge from this situation a stronger district. So if there are no other items from board members, we will move on to correspondence and comments from the public. Secretary Polverento is not here this evening, but I don't recall if we've received correspondence since our last meeting. Okay, yes, we did receive a couple of emails regarding the ongoing investigation. Thank you very much. Anyone else remember any other correspondence? Okay, thank you. With that, we will move on to comments from the public. And just before we enter comments from the public, I just wanted to say, reiterate here in Haslett, we do value public comment and feedback from our community. Feedback from our community helps support our mission of educating students and preparing them to succeed. As you may know, in February, March, our board passed a new policy among many policies that allows 3 minutes per person during public comment in alignment with many other area districts and other public bodies to ensure we give everyone a chance to speak and be heard. As always, we value your feedback as part of our continued commitment to helping all Haslett School students succeed. So with that, we will move on to correspondence from the public with the 3-minute time limit. This, as always, is not intended to be a back and forth between the board and members of the public, but if there are comments and questions that arise, either the superintendent, the associate superintendent, or myself will respond to those as necessary. So would any member of the public wish to speak this evening? And just for those who, I'm sorry, that do come and speak, just state your name and thank you.
It's on now?
Is it
It's on.
red?
Yes, it's red.
Okay, then you're good to go.
Okay. Tonight, my name is Samara Morgan. I'm a parent of 2 students at Raleigh Elementary. I wear teal tonight in support of sexual assault victims. Teal ribbon. I'm here tonight because our trust in this district's leadership at every level is broken. There are multiple deeply serious allegations involving a single student, allegations of sexual assault, broken bones, and racial slurs. This is not rumor. This is not hearsay. This is real, and this is dangerous to every student at Raleigh. Under the law, you had the authority to remove the student from the school environment immediately. Instead, you quietly transferred the student from Murphy to Raleigh without a single word to families beforehand. You exposed an entirely new school community to risk, confusion, and your silence. When the district finally did speak up, it was through the superintendent's vague, half-hearted statement issued 15 minutes before the end of the business day on a day school wasn't even in session. That wasn't transparency, that was damage control. The statement left out the severity of the allegations. They left out the transfer. It left out key incident types, depriving parents of the information needed to have real safety conversations with their kids before school started. Some of the superintendent's statements in response to this crisis have been so clearly evasive and removed from what basic leadership demands that I have to honestly ask, what qualifies him to lead this district? What does the future of this district look like with this continued style of so-called leadership? We are demanding real leadership to protect students from sexual assault, broken limbs, and racist attacks. We are demanding the student be removed immediately from the general school population for the remainder of the investigation. Provide the student with alternative education, off-site or online, but do not keep gambling with our children's safety while this drags on. To the board, you have the power to act. You set policy. You hire and fire the superintendent. And if you don't act, we will. Through organizing, through the news media, through recall, and through the ballot box. And make no mistake, we will keep asking these questions in person and in writing, and creating a clear public trail of what you have or have not done. We are not alone, and we're not going away. The pressure will only increase. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Does anyone else wish to speak this evening?
Hello, my name is Delilah White. I'm in 10th grade, and since I don't go to Haslett Public Schools anymore, I kind of feel safe enough to speak on this. Early on in the 9th grade, I reported a threat of sexual assault to the vice principal of Haslett High School. I reported it to a trusted teacher first, and they had escorted me to the vice principal's office. I detailed the incident to her and indicated that I did not want to investigate it further and wanted it to remain private. They did not call or report to my parents at that time. 6 months later, at a school-sanctioned track meet, I was accosted and threatened in an isolated area by a family member of the boy I reported. I informed my parents what had happened and why, detailing the event earlier in the year. During the last few years at Haslett Public Schools, I have felt increasingly unsafe. During my time in the middle school and the high school, my experiences have been that when the issue is reported by the student to the counselors or administration, it was not reported to the parents in a timely fashion and allowed to escalate, and I've even had teachers talk about my issues with my peers. It has also been my experience that the investigation techniques led to additional trauma. I'm concerned that this may be teaching children and teens not to report concerns. Nobody should tolerate the mistreatment of students, and I hope future measures can be taken to protect all students of all ages from this type of administrative misconduct at Haslett Public Schools. Thank you.
Nice job.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else wish to speak this evening?
Good evening. My name is Keith White. I'm Delilah's father. On April 22nd, the track meet with Lansing Eastern. My daughter was having the time of life. She had just won first place in the 800 and the mile races. She was filled with joy, singing on the infield. Just 20 minutes later, she was on the infield crying, scared, afraid for her safety. She had gone to the team tent with another team to grab something. The tent is in an isolated area behind the bathrooms and concessions. On the way back from the tent, an adult woman accosted her with no other adults around. I have no doubt the woman was targeting her. Once we got her calmed down, she told us the woman screamed at her and threatened her for reporting the boy for sexually harassing her. When we asked her why the woman would do this, she indicated that she had reported the boy the previous October to the vice principal. The school had not made us aware. They are obligated to do so. They did not. I cannot be clearer about that. That is the biggest failure. We were not made aware as her parents. That is unacceptable. I called the school on the morning of April 23rd to report the incident with the adult. and set up a meeting the following day to discuss it with the principal and the vice principal of the high school. We discussed the incident in detail. I indicated 3 times that my daughter was afraid for her safety. To be very clear, those words were used 3 times. My child was afraid for her safety. The principal indicated that she understood the severity of the situation, the fact that my daughter was afraid for her safety, so she acknowledged that fact, which meant she heard her. And she indicated that she would investigate the situation. She then indicated that she would be back in touch with me for further communication by the following Tuesday, April 29th. To this day, I've heard nothing. Nothing from anyone at the high school about the incident. And I understand that details can't be discussed. I've heard there's nothing about any investigation. I've heard nothing about any inquiry. Nothing. So that's a violation of the policies that you folks just discussed here. And it's still happening. And it's happening in your leadership. And it needs to stop. Children cannot put to school in an environment where they fear for their safety.
Can I just get the dates? 4/22.
4/22 was the incident occurred.
On 25? The year
Yes.
before. Okay. And
Yes.
October was 24, 10 of 24.
Yes.
You can't. We can get that information to the board,
Okay.
but we can't have, thank you. Thank you very much. Does anyone else wish to speak this evening?
I don't know how you follow that. My name is Molly Maynard, and my child is in the 5th grade at Raleigh Elementary School. I'm here tonight because the district's delays and failures to act have left parents no choice but to come forward and share their concerns with this board regarding the safety of our children and disgraceful leadership our administration has exhibited. The red flags regarding the student in question from the sexual assault at Murphy last May have been well documented. Repeated violations of safety directives, sexualized touching of peers normalized as accidental, targeting the same victims repeatedly, including incidents that left children with broken arms, verbal harassment including racial and sexual comments, a complete disregard for consequences, with peers already describing him as unsafe. These are not isolated incidents. They are warning signs of escalating aggression. A judge issued a PPO for a good reason. What is equally concerning is how district leadership has responded. The superintendent has not handled this situation appropriately. The letter he sent to families was misleading and untrue, designed to minimize rather than confront the seriousness of what happened. When administrators prioritize protecting themselves over protecting children, the community loses trust. Now, some of us have tried to present solutions to the safety breaches on the elementary school playgrounds. Last winter, at the superintendent's coffee meeting, I suggested adults wear brightly colored vests on the playground, so they're easily identifiable from a distance. This may have helped my child when she was chased down and trapped on a piece of playground equipment until another girl, twice her size, could get to her to pick her up and throw her. Unbeknownst to us, it was throw a small person day, and the girl had planned to participate by targeting my daughter. I even offered to pay for the vests. This suggestion wasn't shared with the school, as I found out after meeting with the new student success coordinator at Raleigh this past week to share my safety concerns. We are asking this board join us to show leadership, empathy, and courage by acting now to protect all students. We urge the school board to evaluate the superintendent's performance in light of his failed leadership. Based on this evaluation, we call on the board to take appropriate action, including termination if warranted. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Does anyone else wish to speak this evening?
Good evening. My name is Amy Jo Duckett. I have 4 kids who attend Ralia. For the first time ever, they're finally in the same building. And I, first of all, want to acknowledge the superintendent. After a parent meeting about our concerns, I stopped over to see you when you weren't here. And your administrative assistant said, I'll make sure that I give him the message that you need to speak with him. And you called me the very next day. And we had a conversation, and you listened to my concerns. And we found some common ground. In saying that, because I did want to acknowledge that did happen, I also want to acknowledge the tremendous staff that we have been gifted since pre-K from Wilkshire to Ralia. The administrative staff, the janitorial staff, the parapros, the principals. Oh my goodness, we are blessed in this district with so much wonderfulness. I'm a former educator. I was a teacher for 15 years in St. John's. I taught 5th and 6th grade. I taught students with special needs. I have a master's degree in education. And I have no doubt that when you shared what's being done to be proactive, and you shared that there's a 30-minute training video that is shown, I have no doubt I might have watched that same video. But here's the thing, that I have a few concerns. The first one is, as a mandated first reporter, the very first year I was in the education program, both at Western in my undergrad and in my master's at MSU, there was an immense focus on it does not matter what you hear. It is not your interpretation to decide whether it's reportable. It is not your interpretation to decide what the outcome's going to be or what needs to happen next. As a mandated first reporter, you report immediately. You don't put your whistle down from recess. You don't go to lunch. You don't start teaching. You privately, confidentially, you get that child and you start writing down date, time, incident. You do not sit on it. You do not wait. If there is not an administrator or the person who's in charge that day, there has to be a hierarchy. And I have a concern about that in Haslett. I have a concern of who's being trained on a 30-minute video. That can't possibly be the best for our children. It's not the best in St. John's, Haslett, MSU. It's not the best anywhere. None of us would want that for our kids, right? As a teacher, I needed more, and we received more. And I know this staff would be interested in that.
Thank you very much for your comments this evening. Does anyone else wish to speak?
Hi, my name is Larry LaHaye, and I have daughters in the middle school in 8th grade and in 5th grade at Ralia. And I came up here to tell you how distressed I am about what I heard last week, just found out about last week with the young man transferring from Murphy to Ralia, and the fact that unbeknownst to me, unbeknownst to my daughter was walking 5 feet behind him from the school to the library after school on that first day, unsupervised. We weren't aware of this kid who had sexually assaulted 4 ladies and been involved in 2 broken arms and used racial derogatory terms towards another student. We were unaware of all that, so that's very distressing. But my concerns pale in comparison to the hell that young lady and her family have been through. So I don't know what else I could say to make clear how brutal and how serious the nature of all this is. I appreciate that you shared a little more this evening than in the email, which I definitely agree had been very vague on measures that the school is trying to take. But please, for the love of God, I heard that you have, you're trying to do what you can to take care of the student and the other students involved, but like some of these parents have said, it's all of our children. It's the scariest part of my day, taking my daughters to school. And, that's because of the way things are. And it has been my understanding for the 10 years I've been in Haslett, the district that we chose to come to because it seemed amazing. We've been proud to be here. It's been the toughest part of my day to bring girls to school and be afraid for their safety. But I've trusted that the district and all the faculty have their well-being at the top of their mind, in their heart. And I believe that with teachers and everything. But someone failed this young lady horribly. Please don't fail the rest of our children. We are all putting our children's safety and well-being in your hands. And I know there's only so much you can do, but I think folks can do more than they did for that young lady. Please help us. Please keep our children safe.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else wish to speak this evening?
My name is Allison Steginga. My daughter is one of the victims from the May 5th sexual assaults. I think it should be noted that you decided to make public comments 3 minutes after we came forward talking about our daughter's sexual assaults. What does that say to us, other than you don't want to hear about it? 5 minutes is too long. 3 minutes, we should be able to tell you what happened in 3 minutes. Well, we keep coming back each week telling you new information. You know why the Title IX investigation has barely begun, why a new attorney had to be hired. You know why. You know all the facts. And then you just read off those emails like they're stating something that's true. You know all the falsehoods from those emails. You know they're lies. Lies by omission, but you know it's lies. You know the school didn't immediately call parents and let them know. I've told you. I wasn't told. So how can you read those emails and make us sit through that? The board has not responded to our requests to share our daughter's story. I don't know why. You're able to hear us. There's no legal binding that you can't listen. Our story and the 3 other girls. We've explained there's so much to this story. It's failure after failure. We're doing people's jobs, repeatedly telling you what's supposed to be happening. The board stated tonight that you support the superintendent. Do you support our daughters? Isn't that why you're here on the board? It's not just about education, it's about their safety while they're here. That's why there's Title IX. It's not your job to support the superintendent. It's your job to support the kids in this district. I'm calling for Haslett Public Schools to establish a student safety forum that meets once a month during the school year. This forum must allow parents, students, and staff to ask questions openly, receive transparent answers, and ensure accountability for the district's handling of student safety issues. I have already begun collecting signatures from other parents who share these concerns. While I hope it will not be necessary to rely on a petition, the strong and growing support among parents demonstrates the urgent need for this forum. There are many parents in our community with serious and unresolved concerns. This is what we need from our superintendent and board in order to feel that our children are safe. I need to finish. That the district is moving forward responsibly, and that our trust is not misplaced. Vague emails or general statements such as increased supervision do not answer questions or clarify what supervision actually means. Communication is the most effective tool we have for productive engagement between the district, families, and students. By creating this forum, the district would not only address immediate concerns, but also build the trust necessary for the best learning environment. If the district truly did everything it was supposed to, then meeting with parents in a public forum will only save the superintendent and families time, provide clarity for those who don't fully understand the legalities of the school processes, and allow us to work together as a community. Because if
I'll allow
everything...
10 seconds for you to wrap up your comments, please.
Seriously? Has your daughter been sexually assaulted? Do you have a daughter? I don't know.
She can take my 3 minutes.
Unfortunately, that's not how it's worked.
Then give me my 5. If everything was handled correctly, there should be no reason not to be met with us openly.
Matt Stegging, my wife Allison just spoke, and obviously father of one of the victims at Murphy. And I just want to say, first of all, that I want to thank all of you parents who have come forward. How proud I am of you for coming forward. Very brave of you. Because not long after, our family endured. It's just unspeakable. And it's disappointing that the district sent out a message, misleading email suggesting that Haslett Public Schools acted swiftly and independently in response to sexual assault disclosures. The reality is that every action was taken only after parents demanded it. That email was more than misleading. It was retaliation under Title IX. It sent a lifelong message to these daughters and to every student that their rights don't matter, that people in power won't fight for them, and that speaking up will be dismissed and discredited. Parents and staff across this district are appalled by this administration's response, but are afraid to speak because of retaliation. That is why the law prohibits it and why accountability is not optional. Instead of protecting kids, this administration is using taxpayer dollars to protect itself. And we still don't have answers to critical questions. Why has there been no investigation into the allegations we made against the interviewer who mishandled our daughter's disclosures? Why has she been allowed to return to work with students, move to another elementary school, with parents unaware this was likely the result of how she handled disclosures of sexual assault? What training has occurred on mandated reporting that specifically addresses the failures these girls experienced last spring? Are staff now trained to call CPS in cases of child-on-child sexual assault? Why is the same interviewer who violated students' trust now working with an even more vulnerable population? It's mind-blowing. What specific changes have been made beyond vague statements that policies were followed or supervision increased? The board's attorneys may have influenced you to believe you cannot speak out, talking to the board, but that is their job, not yours. Your job is to stand up for what's right. When the full story comes out and this community sees how 9 and 10-year-olds were treated, and that's just our story, I hate to know that there's more. Will you have the courage to say you stood with them? Those children spoke the truth. Now it's your turn.
Thank you very much for your comments. Does anyone else wish to speak this evening?
Jeff Kessner, Haslett resident. On August 8th, Haslett Public School families received a message from Superintendent Malley stating, quote, "I am writing to provide an update on an incident involving Murphy Elementary School's students that is part of an ongoing Title IX investigation," end quote. This update comes 3 months after the incident occurred and 2 months after Mr. Steginga notified Haslett Public School families. The message goes on to say, quote, "Throughout this process, we followed board policy and legal obligations," end quote. Mr. Steginga stated to this board, quote, "Our daughter was interviewed in a public hallway while other students walked by, even though staff knew she might have been a victim of sexual assault. The interview was never documented, and the disclosure that her genitals were touched was never communicated to us, her parents. No report was filed with Protective Services despite the legal obligation to do so." Mr. Steginga stated, quote, "Superintendent's absence. Despite 2 written requests to meet with us, he declined. Members of our community were shocked that our superintendent declined to meet with us. This is an issue of avoidance and lack of care for our girls," end quote. Mr. Steginga stated, quote, "Because of the district's continued failure to prohibit a young man from approaching his victims on 3 different occasions after May 5th, which is 3 different Title IX violations, we were forced to take action. A county judge issued our daughter a personal protection order," end quote. Mr. Steginga stated, quote, "The district initiated a Title IX investigation more than a month after it received the information that required it to do so. When staff stayed silent, they denied every child the immediate protection a CPS investigation provides, violated Michigan's child protection law, and exposed themselves to criminal charges," end quote, and the list goes on. I encourage community members to listen to the public comments of Matt Steginga. Go to the Haslett Public School website, click on Board of Education, click on Board Meetings, and listen to his comments at the June 9th, 23rd, and July 21st meetings. Compare and contrast those comments with the letter from Superintendent Malley. You will find the differences quite striking. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else wish to speak this evening?
Good evening. My name is Thomas Morgan. First, I want to make it crystal clear that I'm not here tonight as a county commissioner, nor am I here tonight as a PR guy for Michigan's largest education organization, but rather as a parent of a 5th grader at Raleigh, whose classroom is right next door to Raleigh's newest 5th grader. I'm concerned because my student, or my son, has special needs, has trouble communicating. If he were being bullied or targeted, there's a good chance we would never know, and that scares me. And I know that the school staff are on top of it right now, but things tend to loosen up over time, and that's when this is going to happen again. It's not a matter of if it'll happen again, it is when. These things only get worse with time unless dealt with. I did mention I'm not speaking in a capacity with my day job, but I would like to talk about PR. I've worked in PR for about 20 years, and there's an adage that a term called the Friday news dump. There was even an entire episode of The West Wing about the Friday news dump, and essentially it's when an organization wants to put out information that doesn't really want to get seen. They want to be able to say they put it out, that they got the information out, but they don't want it to get attention. Generally, it's frowned upon by people in PR. Attorneys like to suggest it. I fight with them all the time. Attorneys get paid regardless, but the blowback from PR falls on those who make the decisions. MSU Board of Trustees had attorneys. They advised them to do some things. Look what happened there. So I would encourage you, if you do not, in your heart of hearts, appreciate or agree with the legal advice you receive, it might be time to get a new attorney as well, because you have to live with the consequences of your actions. We have to live with the consequences of your actions. The email from the superintendent came out at 4:45 p.m. on Friday, which is so bad, it's almost cliche how counter that is to the principles of transparency. I thought it's almost a joke that it came out at 4:45. I would highly advise you, if you really are concerned about transparency, to avoid doing things like that, because it certainly doesn't build a lot of confidence in the public that hopefully you claim to serve. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Does anyone else wish to speak this evening?
Hello, my name is Tori Santucci, and I'm the parent of 3 children at Haslett Public Schools. And I had about 3 different statements prepared, trying to decide which one to give you in my couple minutes. And I decided I just wanted to speak to the board members just from my heart. I know many of you in different capacities, as neighbors, as parents of my son's teammates, all different ways. And your responsibility is for one employee, and that's the superintendent. And these 4 girls are not the only 4 girls that I've heard of being in very difficult situations whose parents have fought really hard to be heard, that have had to try to have meetings. I myself tried to have a meeting with Patrick, which I did get today, but it took a few days to get that meeting, and I only think it's because the heat is on. These girls are young. They're begging for help. Their parents are begging for help, and we want them to be safe. And I guess I just plead to you that you have to look at this. There's so many instances that that I personally know that parents are too scared to come and speak because of retaliation. But there are a lot of strong people that have come forward, and I just can't imagine, as my children have not been in a situation, I cannot imagine being a parent up here having to just fight and fight and fight just for the school to do what's right. So I guess I just want to remind you that you're in charge of one person as a board. You can, if there is a social worker that didn't do the right thing, that's not your job. But I think you've heard a lot of good information today from a variety of people, and I really think the community is counting on you to take a leadership role and really look into this and what has been happening. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments this evening. Does anyone else wish to speak? Seeing no one else wishing to speak, just want to make sure. Okay. Then we will move back to our discussion item for this evening to talk about the out-of-state field trip request for New York City for the choir. Mr. Callahan.
Good evening. Just point of note on the discussion item, last name is spelled Callaghan. No worries. It happens a lot. It actually started out that way before my family split in the Bay City area. So I just wanted to give a quick shout out to the board for this trip coming up. It should be in your packet. We do this every 2 years with our choir program for our juniors and seniors. All juniors and seniors that are part of our choir program are eligible for this trip. The cost is estimated at $1,735 per student traveling. The boosters our choir booster program is putting in $400 per student to help kind of get them started financially to raise money for the trip. We also offer a scholarship opportunity for students who are in financial need based off of the standards for our free and reduced lunch program that was active for a while before COVID. And that is just additional help we provide to those students. We also provide an extra fundraising opportunity for them in the wintertime. So there's ample opportunities and outreaches for our students to be able to equitably access this trip. The only thing I just need to get is your blessing that we continue with the process because we've got everything done with the travel company, and we are set to have our first parent meeting on the 10th of September to start talking about the trip. Any questions? Mr. Malley probably has never heard about this trip, but we basically make it a cultural experience for our students. It's not about the performance aspect. It's more about showing our students everything New York has to offer from an artistic, a cultural point of view. We do perform at St. John the Divine as one of our stops for that trip, which is the second oldest church in New York City. And so we get to perform in just a space that we normally never would get access to provide that musical experience for our students as well.
Any questions from board members?
On average, like how large of a group do you normally take to this trip?
So we usually fill a bus. So about 54, well, not students. I should say it's roughly about 48 students. The rest are adults, chaperones that help manage the students while we're on the trip. So we usually fill a bus. Our program right now is still at a smaller number for junior seniors. So probably I would assume our freshmen, sophomores, they are quite larger. And then those 8th graders are quite large coming up. So in the next few trip cycles, we'll probably start taking 2 buses again like we used to. So.
Any other board members have any questions or comments for Mr. Callahan? I've known a couple of students personally who've gone on this trip, and you guys do a fantastic job.
Thank you.
So I really appreciate it, and I appreciate also the choir boosters, who I should mention.
Oh, yes, thank
and their
you.
contribution to help lower the costs for the students as well. So
Yes, I'll make sure they know at our next meeting. Thank you.
We appreciate the choir boosters for that. So if there are no other questions, this will be an action item at our next meeting. Is that correct? Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, board. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. All right. We will now move on to our consent agenda for the evening. The consent agenda has 4 items. First item is the winter tax certification, which you have in your packet. And the second is the approval of minutes for the regular board meeting on August 11th. The third is the approval of minutes for the closed session meeting that was held on August 11th. And finally, the approval of the contract for the associate superintendent, which the superintendent mentioned earlier this evening. Would any member like any of those items on the consent agenda pulled for this evening? Seeing none, I would be happy to take a motion for the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Do we have a second?
I will second.
Thank you very much. We have a motion and a second for the approval of the 4 items on tonight's consent agenda. All those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The consent agenda for this evening has passed. We will now move on to announcements, which is my job. Regularly scheduled board meeting will be held on September 8th at 7 o'clock right here in the Haslett Administration Building. And lastly, a regularly scheduled Board of Education meeting will be held September 22nd in the Haslett Administration Building at 7 p.m. Just a note for board members that we'll be hosting a welcome dinner for all of our new teachers at 5 p.m. that evening in the Middle School Media Center, catered by our wonderful Haslett Food Service. So that's always a fun evening and a great opportunity to meet all of our new teachers and staff. So with that, I will move on to our final agenda item for this evening and take a motion for adjournment.
I move to adjourn the board meeting.
Second.
Thank you very much. We have a motion and a second for adjournment. All those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned for this evening. Thank you very much, everyone.